In a marathon overnight vote, Senate Republicans advanced the framework for President Trump's big, beautiful budget bill to fund his agenda. They did so by a vote of 51-48. Now, the resolution would make Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent. It would also provide an extra $1.5 trillion to cover things like the president's no tax on tips promise, set aside $175 billion for the border, and $150 billion more for defense. However, Senate committees have to find massive savings in the process, even more so than the House has already set. Wisconsin Republican Congressman Bryan Steil of the House Financial Services Committee joining me now. Congressman, great to have you with us today. There are a number of things I want to try to get to quickly, but first of all, the vote-a-rama. Are you satisfied with how things went, and how soon might we get this over the finish line?
The Senate bill is wholly inadequate to get our spending under control, but the good news is this is just a step in the process to unlock where we can actually get the legislation done. I do believe that we have a real opportunity here to make sure that we're protecting President Trump's tax cuts that brought the economic growth we saw going into the recession. We have an opportunity to work to secure the border, and we have an opportunity to make sure that we are properly and thoughtfully funding our national defense. Those pieces of the puzzle are there. The key is that we come in nowhere near the floor of the Senate plan, which does not have nearly enough savings that I think are necessary, or I think my colleagues in the House will require.
Listen, Republicans have control of the House and the Senate and the White House. You've got to get this thing done. Now, maybe a bit of horse trading along the way, and I imagine you recognize the need, especially for the Republicans who are in complicated districts, to maybe have a bit of horse trading happen between now and the finish line, because you got to get these tax cuts, or that otherwise will undermine the president's agenda.
Agreed. The reconciliation budget is only a step in the process. The budget itself is not the lawmaking exercise. Yeah. It is just necessary to unlock the lawmaking exercise that will allow us to deliver on the American First agenda that President Trump ran on and won on. And so I'm optimistic at the end of the day that we can get there. But I think it's absolutely essential that we come into this eyes wide open, that we need to see savings and cost savings and address the reckless spending that led us into the inflationary environment that President Biden took us through.
That's right. And you don't want to get in a circumstance where you're giving away the house or giving away the farm, if you will, with sort of foolish spending along the way. I want to ask you about securing the border. As a number of Americans, I'm sure, have told you from Wisconsin and across the country, that is a paramount issue. It certainly was in the 2024 campaign. What can you do to make sure that that is a priority as we look forward to possibly getting this over the finish line?
President Trump's executive actions coming out of the gates did a lot to secure the border by restarting border wall construction, reinstating stay in Mexico, ending abuse of the parole system, and stopping catch and release. He has done a lot, but there's more work to be done that requires laws passed through Congress, in particular, making sure that we are funding the men and women of Border Patrol so they are fully staffed so that we can actually deliver on the secured border that we have begun making amazing headway on. So making sure that that border security is a piece of this reconciliation bill, as the House and the Senate bills do, is going to be a huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and no doubt we've certainly seen what a difference a president can make down along the border. Let me get you to weigh in real quickly, Congressman, on the tariffs. I think a number of Americans perhaps don't understand the tariffs. To them, it's a lot of hullabaloo in the media. They see what's happening with the markets. But I think when you take the longer view, the president and certainly the White House feels like this is the right thing to get other trading partners to the negotiating table. And ultimately, this will pay big dividends. What do you have on that? In fact, as you tell us your thoughts, I just want to share this. This is from Liz McDonald, my colleague over at Fox Business. She's sort of telling us on a post on X, dozens of nations now talking tariffs and trade deals with the Trump White House, including Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, Japan, South Korea, Australia, UK, Israel. The list goes on, of course, including Canada and Mexico.
Really working with our allies to get to free, fair, but reciprocal trade so the United States can be trading freely with our allies is absolutely essential. Then making sure that we're holding China accountable is a big piece of this. Working with our allies to address the fact that China has been abusing trade agreements to the detriment of American workers and American farmers now for decades needs to be addressed. This puts the pressure on China and gives us an opportunity to reach that resolution, hold China accountable. And if we do this correctly, I believe that President Trump can deliver us a deal where we're getting free, fair, reciprocal trade with our allies and come out of this stronger than how we entered it.
You said with our allies, but I'm also curious how you feel we advance the agenda as it relates to China. This country has an enormous trading relationship with China. I wouldn't necessarily call them an ally, but certainly a trading partner. What's the best strategy moving forward to not just ensure that our country comes out on top, or at least has fair, as you said, fair and equitable trade, but also protecting jobs from Wisconsin and across the country?
Well, China's been the worst abuser of trade agreements over the past handful of decades, and that's where working with U.S. allies to hold China accountable is going to become essential. And so China has abused the trade agreements to the detriment of our industries, of workers, of employers across the United States of America. Former administrations have looked the other way while China engaged in those terrible practices. President Trump has stood up and is going to be in a position to truly force China to concede to be trading fairly and freely and reciprocally with the United States.
Congressman Bryan Steil, go Badgers. Great to see you, my friend. Appreciate your time today.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.